Like you didn't do this? Do what?
What's up, everyone, and welcome back to Fiction Tea Reviews. By my self-published book Rain. It is a psychological thriller about a group of young adults in a psych ward who get this new counselor that's trying to understand their mental illnesses and trying to understand them, but then the counselor shortly learns that these kids might not be crazy and that this place is actually making them crazy, all the while trying to figure out what's going on with him and his psychological demons and his problems. If you would like more information about this book, be sure to hit the link in the description box below. Supporting me and buying these books actually helps. Instead of tea today, I actually have some cucumber water. Go get you some cucumber water. Okay, today we're going to talk about Supernatural Season 4. I'm currently watching Buffy Season 3 right now, but I did finish Supernatural the past weekend. And I'm really psyched about talking about this. So let's get into it. I miss my boys, my guys, Sam and Dean Winchester. So episode 1, Lazarus Rising. Dean is pulled out of hell by one of my favorite people, Castiel. He meets this angel named Castiel who pulls him out of hell, and he says, I pulled you out of hell and raised you from redemption. Somewhere along the lines of that, he says it like that. And Dean, first thing he goes to do, he goes see what happened to Sam, goes see Bobby. Bobby doesn't believe that it's him, of course. Holy water on him, tries to attack him at first, and it's finally confirmed, like, no, this is Dean, like, something brought him back here, and he's just like, I don't know why I'm back, I don't know what's going on, what happened to Sam. So, next episode, are you there, God? It's me, Dean Winchester. So, all the people that Dean and Sam did not save, Dean and Bobby and Sam did not save, they end up coming back to haunt them, and Bobby is like, we need to, like, exercise them, we need to solve this problem. Actually, Cass shows up, and Dean is like, okay, if God pulled me out, you know, if God's the one who's been doing this, why would he let all these things happen to his people? And of course, Cass can't explain that. Dean's told about the 66 seals and how Lilith wants to break them so that she can bring Lucifer out and start the apocalypse. And there is this line that Castiel says to Dean, and he's like, show me some respect. I dragged you out of hell. I can drag you back in. And that's the first time and the last time. Well, there was another time, but that's like one of the first times that I've seen Dean shook. Like he was scared. And there was like this really other interesting scene where they showed the throat chakra and like the chakra list Bobby showed, and I thought that was pretty interesting that they put that in there relating to the times of today and how things are recycled and how that was brought into there. So next episode, in the beginning, Dean goes back in time to when his parents were young, and he finds out that the yellow-eyed demon is inside of Samuel eventually, but before that he tells Samuel like who he really is, what's really going on, and his goal basically is to stop the yellow-eyed demon and prevent all that stuff from happening. But unfortunately his mom ends up selling her soul because of the dad. Yes, Dean can't stop fate. And Cass ends up telling Dean like, Sam's going down the wrong path, and if you don't stop him, we will. Episode 4, Metamorphosis. Dean finds out that Sam has been exorcising demons with Ruby, and he's just like, what the heck? Like, betrayal, number 1. Number 2, is this what you've been doing this whole time? Like, who are you? They end up saving this guy who's like even eating human flesh and tries to kill his girlfriend. And Sam ends up burning him alive. Episode 5, Monster Movie. This one was pretty good. I really liked this one because it was like in black and white and it reminded me of like an old Frankenstein movie. But it was very Dracula themed. Sam and Dean kind of go to this pub and they get this story about, oh yeah, we saw Dracula. Then they get another story about someone else. Then they get another story about someone else. And that's kind of what's happened. They try to find out who's Dracula, what's going on. Eventually they find out it is the bartender woman because she drugs Dean and the girl that he's on a date with, and Dean's like, get some freaking help, what is wrong with you? Like, you're not Dracula, basically. This episode was so humorous because Dean's always very serious, but like they just do normal funny where it's just naturally funny. Some freaking help, man. God, this is not a movie. Meanwhile, the Dracula guy is like, and Dracula, is there garlic in this pizza? Like, there were so many ridiculous scenes, like, where the actor who is playing Dracula also playing Dracula in the show, and he asks the kid, like, is there garlic in this pizza? And even the kid is like, I don't got time for this. Okay, I have other orders. Stop with the games. But the best part is that he stayed in character all the way to the end, even when he got shot. It was great. Okay, so this is my favorite episode because Dean freaks out this entire episode. He basically has like really intense anxiety. Watching Dean freak out was hilarious. The scene with the snake was so funny. He was just so still and scared. And then there was this scene, I think, where like something popped out of the locker and he screamed like a little girl. And he ran out of the building. Hilarious. Him squealing is literally priceless. Eventually, Sam comes up with this idea to tie this chain around the ghost's neck and drag him out. And it ends with Sam and Dean talking, and Sam basically asks Dean, like, what did you see in hell? Like, what happened? Also, what did you just see? Like, what did you just previously see? Like, what happened, you know, during the whole yellow fever episode? And, well, during his personal episode with the yellow fever. And Dean tells him a lie. He lies and says, you know, nothing really too crazy. And then he says that and looks at Sam's eyes, and they are yellow like the yellow-eyed demon. Episode 7, it's the Great Pumpkin, Sam Winchester. It opens up with this wife and husband, and it's Halloween, and she brings in some candy, puts it away, and the husband has a sweet tooth and he really wants this candy. She tells him, no, don't eat any, puts it in the cabinet. He ends up taking one, and he ends up picking out a razor blade from the candy, and then not only that, coughing up the razor blades and dying. Another scene happens with these college kids, and they're like bobbing for apples, and girl dies. She drowns, even though no one's pushing her and nothing's there but just her bobbing her head for apples. Castiel shows up with Uriel, which is another angel, and Dean is just like, who is this? Meanwhile, Cass is like, you should go, because we're about to end this planet. I love how Cass is like literally dead inside. Because he's an angel, he already has a concept of emotions and this and that, and like he basically doesn't have emotion, and I love that about him because it's kind of dry humor, and we love Cass. Especially like over time, you just start to love Cass for his really questionable, non-emotional character. So we eventually find out that the teacher is the one doing all these things. Sam eventually exercises him even though he was told not to. Uriel ends up threatening Sam like, use this again. You lucky for right now, but you lucky, relax. And then Sam and Cass kind of have this like heartfelt moment where basically Cass reveals the truth to Dean, and he says like, I have doubts too. Like, I don't always believe in everything, and I have my questions and my doubts about God and like what's going on and everything. I feel like gives Dean some reassurance, but also there's so much pressure put on Dean. Let him be. But Cass basically does end by telling Dean like, I wouldn't wish to have what you have, that burden on your shoulders, any day. And I'm just like, dang, even an angel is telling Dean how hard his life is. And Dean's like, he's just a regular human. So this episode is about the wishing well. It opens up with this kid who's invisible, and he spies on this woman. Sam and Dean eventually find out that people are throwing coins into this wishing well, and their wishes are coming true. They meet this little girl who turned her teddy bear into like a real person. I thought that was interesting, especially the teddy bear like trying to basically commit suicide, not being able to because it's a teddy bear. Dean, I love that Dean makes a wish, and he doesn't wish for like money, women, cars, clothes, like the normal regular things that an average person would wish for. He wishes for a sub sandwich. a delicious sub sandwich, and he gets his sub sandwich, and he's like, this is freaking delicious. And eventually, of course, it backfires. And he tells Sam, you should wish for something. And Sam's like, no, because I know there's a catch with this. So I'm just not going to do that. And there is a catch. Dean gets really sick from eating the sandwich. The bear that the little girl wanted is just so depressed, doesn't really do anything, and tries to kill itself. And this guy that they meet who started this whole thing with the wishing well gets a girlfriend, but it's not in a way that like it's natural. So she's basically just like obsessed with him the whole time, and eventually he has to take her out because she tries to kill Sam. Episode 9, I Know What You Did Last Summer, opens up with a scene with Anna, and she's in the psych ward. Anna is this angel. She doesn't find out, of course, later that she's an angel, and we all find out later on that she's an angel. So she's basically talking to a therapist about basically how the end is near. Alistair, the demon from hell, shows up. Dean's hell buddy shows up, Alistair. So they end up tending their wounds. Oh, and it looked like super, like it hurt a lot. We get a flashback of Sam and how he started to exercise demon with Ruby and how that whole process went. And eventually Uriel and Castiel show up for Anna, and they say she needs to die. So episode 10, Heaven and Hell. Anna ends up saving them. They find out that she ripped out her grace, and that's why she became human. She was no longer an angel. And Pamela, we meet Pamela again. And Sam, Dean and Anna get it on. Of course, after all the chaos, after all the fighting, after all the threats, Dean actually fesses up to Sam and finally tells him like what's been going on. He's like, I torture people. I did 30 years, that's all I could do, and then I just started torturing. And just that emotional scene when Dean started to talk about what happened, you know that he was holding on to that, but like still trying to express what happened. And I just deeply felt for Dean in this scene, and I'm like, it's horrible that he had to go through all of that. And it was really hard to watch, and honestly, it kind of made me like want to cry. I just wanted to give him a hug through the screen. It's okay, Dean. Episode 11, Family Remains. His family moves into this haunted house where this girl's living in, who they presume is a ghost, but find out that she's not a ghost. She's actually living inside the walls, inside the house. And she's not a ghost. She's the person who died. He had sex with his daughter or something like that. Or his sister, or somebody in the family. And they had her. And he was ashamed, so he hit her in the walls. But then she, I believe, had a son. She had a brother. They end up killing her. Sam and Dean take care of the brother. And the family is saved. Dean has a soft spot for families, of course, because, you know, his dad and him coming from a broken family. Even the dad acts like, why do you care so much? And Dean's like, I'm not letting anybody die or get hurt. And then it ends with Dean telling Sam like he enjoyed torturing souls and he can never feel that void, that pain. Episode 12, Chris Angels is a douchebag. So opening scene, these old head magicians, they do tricks where a bunch of knives stab him at once, and he ends up living and not dying by it. He ends up surviving for the life of someone else. It comes with a price. It's a friend, even though the guy doesn't know. Sam and Dean eventually find out it's the guy's friend doing it, and he has no type of awareness of what's going on. Ruby starts to really put the pressure on Sam to kill Lilith. It ends with Sam going in and taking on the peer pressure because of what the old man said about being old and alone. Episode 13, After School Special. A girl's possessed and she drowns another girl in school, and Sam and Dean investigate the incident and end up back at their old school. Sam is reminiscing about everything that happened, as well as Dean, but Sam seems to have a closer connection to the school. Meanwhile, Dean is having so much fun being the gym teacher. Sam finds out that another girl's possessed, another kid is possessed. It's Sam's old friend who was bullied, and they burn his bones. But they realize it's not him, and it's actually the bully, and they find out he actually went through a lot of stuff. And in the end, Sam visits his old teacher who asks him, are you happy? And end scene. So 14, Sex and Violence. The scene opens with a couple, and the man ends up beating his wife bludgeoningly to death with a meat tenderizer, and Dean catches Sam being sneaky with Ruby after he basically lies to her face and says, oh yeah, I was in the bathroom. They find out it's a siren that's causing men in this episode to kill their loved ones, and these sirens are inhabiting strippers. And Dean's excited, of course, because this is it's about strip clubs. It's finally about something he's interested in. It leads up to being Bobby actually ends up saving them after they sort of go against each other. Episode 15, Death Takes a Holiday. Hoping to see this guy get shot, he doesn't die. Sam and Dean end up getting Pamela to help them kind of go into ends up meeting the Reaper, Tessa again. They run into Alistair. I will say that I love Alistair's new meat suit because it's super sinister and his accent is just so good that he's just a really great villain. See you again, Dean. He kind of talks with his tongue between his teeth, and I don't know. It's a very unique villain, I think. So Pamela gets stabbed and sad face. Castiel saves Dean from Alistair. The little boy has to go, and Dean is told by Tessa to trust his instincts. Pamela is dying, unfortunately, but she whispers to Sam, like, I know what's inside of you. If you think you have good intentions, think again. Episode 16, On the Head of a Pen. It opens with Castiel saying goodbye to relative / angel, and Dean talking to Sam like, I'm trying to have to bury friends. Castiel's such a freaking brick wall, emotionless in this episode, and I love it. So Castiel and Oriole take Dean and tell him he has to go talk to Alistair. He basically has to torture him. And Anna shows up to Castiel while Dean's torturing Alistair still. Anna tries to convince Cass to stop all of this and free himself. And he's like, go. Sam's on his way after drinking demon blood straight out of Ruby's arm to save Dean. Dean learns he started the whole thing. He started the apocalypse by breaking the first seal in hell with Lilith. Alistair gets out with his trickery and basically help from Uriel secretly. He attacks Dean and he beats him bloody. Castiel shows up to help. Sam kills Alistair and Cass is looking at him like, what in the hell are you? Castiel finds out Uriel set Alistair free and ends up fighting Ariel almost to his death, but Anna comes to save him. Cass tells Dean it's up to him, and Dean is like, I can't, it's too big and I'm not strong enough. And he cries, and poor Dean, I'm just tired of him having to go through, like, Dean went through so much in the season that it's not fair. How much character development you're trying to get this man. Episode 17, It's a Terrible Life. Opening scene, Dean is this businessman, and he gets into the elevator with Sam, who's like, do I know you? You look familiar. And Dean is like, nope. This is actually another one of my favorite episodes. Meanwhile, Sam is having flashbacks, visions of their time together. A co-worker of Sam actually killed himself with a pencil in front of Dean, and Sam is like, did you see a ghost? He's like, yeah. And they connect and feel this intuitive thing about everything. This episode should have been called, in my opinion, Deja Vu. But anyways, like, how did you learn to break down the door? And Sam was like, how did you know how to use a wrench? I just was like, I don't know. So they watch Ghostfacers, which is really funny, intriguing. I like the fact that they watched that, being that Ghostfacers learn everything from them, and Ghostfacers they're imposters. Watching them to find out what to do, and they band together to kill the ghost. And Sam is like, let's do this. Like, maybe our memories were wiped. Like, maybe we're supposed to be doing something else. Like, I feel like we should be doing something else. Sam's like, I know you, but Dean's like not feeling it, and he's like, you don't know me and you should go. By far, this episode is one of my favorites. Like I said, quality. Dean has this whole revelation after getting a raise. He's like, I don't belong here, this is all right. And Sam ends up quitting and smashing the phone. There's a moment where Sam was so petrified after the guy died on the elevator, and I totally felt that part. Episode 18, The Monster at the End of this book. We meet Chuck. Oh my goodness. Another great episode. I love Chuck. So in this scene, he's having visions, and like, again, I heard Chuck. Sam and Dean discover that there's books written about themselves, and they show how big their fans are of themselves with showing the lady their tattoo, who she also ends up having a tattoo on her butt. Chuck is writing the stories, and Sam and Dean show up, and Chuck's like, oh my god, what have I done? Read Chuck's words, and Chuck tells him Sam and Lilith will have sex in demonic passion. So they try to avoid things Chuck wrote about. Unfortunately, they can't, because everything he writes about comes true. Chuck ends up finding out he's a prophet. In the end, Lilith shows up with Sam. So Dean confronts Chuck with aggression, and Castiel shows up and tells him to stop because he's a prophet of the Lord. In the end, Lilith shows up with Dean and Chuck being brought in the room to basically get the archangel to show up on his side, and it ends with Zachariah, this other angel, this archangel, telling Chuck to do what you do right, because Chuck wants to tell the Winchester of their fate because Zachariah shows up, but he ends up threatening him. And I love that Chuck's character, he's just like an ordinary guy who's just overwhelmed by everything, and he's just a writer and an author and being his normal life and normal self, and then boom, this happens. All of this is real that he's writing. Episode 19, Jump the Shark. Some lady in the opening scene gets dragged under the bed by hands, and a picture of John, Sam and Dean's dad, is knocked over. Someone calls him and he's like, I'm John's son. And of course Dean is paranoid, which is really funny in the beginning. It's hilarious. He's like pulling out the glass of water, he's putting holy water in it, he has his gun on the table, and I'm just like, I can't. So Dean's upset. He's like, you're not our father's son, there's us two after this test. He's not a demon and a monster. They tell Adam the truth about them being hunters and his dad being one. Sam hands Adam a gun like, I know what it feels like to want revenge. Sam Darkness in this episode, I think, has slowly started to like show a lot in this season. He's like, yeah, let's use the kid as bait. And I'm just like, ooh, he's getting dark. Come to find out, Adam is actually dead, and the person inside him is this sort of demon thing. Turns out Adam is actually a ghoul, and Dean comes to save Dean by beating him to a bloody pulp by him. It's Adam. And my god, the Winchesters were like super dark this past few episodes and this season, but it ended really well. Now, episode 20, The Rapture. So Castiel shows up in Dean's dream, and Sam and Dean find Cass in some abandoned place as Jimmy the Vessel, and Castiel is gone. Sam's a total crack fiend for demon blood now. Jimmy returns to his old home, and a demon is there trying to kill his family. Sam and Dean show up to help save him, and he has to tell his family goodbye once again. Turns out the mom ends up being possessed. She was possessed the whole time, so they have to come back. Dean questions Sam on what's going on with him, and Sam's like, I'm scaring myself, I don't know. Sam ends up drinking demon blood right while Dean and Castiel is there, and Dean is looking like, what in the hell have you become? Cass is back in Jimmy's body, but now it's Cass this time, and he tells Dean, I don't serve man or you, I serve heaven. And Bobby and Dean end up locking Sam up for his demon problems. End scene. Episode 21, When the Levee Breaks. So Sam is like, let me out, and Dean is like, nah, I think not. So Sam's basically detoxing, and it's hurting Dean so much. Oh my god, you can tell, like, he's in so much pain, and it hurts him to lock his brother up, but he thinks this is the best I could do, that's gonna help. Sam's hallucinating, losing his freaking mind, completely like a complete junkie do when they detox. And Dean talks to Bobby, who suggests maybe letting Sam be the sacrifice and save everyone from the apocalypse. And basically Dean ends up talking to Cass afterwards,
because after Bobby said that, he's like, I'm not doing that. Like, no. And he talks to Cass, and Cass is like, step up and give yourself over to us, the angels and God. And he does so for the sake of Sam. Sam's still hallucinating while Bobby's like, we may have to make demon blood or he'll probably die. Dean is like, no, I'd rather let him die as a human. Like, I can't. I can't let him become that. Become a monster. Sam breaks out thanks to Castiel and finds Ruby to drink some demon blood. Man, what has Sam become? Like, what does Sam become, really? So Dean ends up finding him and they brawl. Like, they start fighting. Sam chokes him out and tells Dean, you never knew me, and sad face. Dean's and it ends with like this really sad moment where Dean's like, you walk out that door, don't you come back. And I'm like, no, you guys. And he leaves, end scene.
So, episode 22, final episode, Lucifer Rising. So, Bobby tells Dean to try again with Sam, and Dean is like, no, I'm done. Like, I'm done with him. That's it. Zachariah shows up to Dean, and he kind of puts him in a cage. A nice little cage, I suppose, but a cage nonetheless. And he's like, you need to obey. You're not going anywhere. You can't escape. Like, there's nothing you can do. Cass ends up showing up, and Dean is like, I need your help. Like, I need you to help me. Meanwhile, Sam and Ruby are still out, and she's basically convinced Sam to manipulate Sam into killing. Eventually, he ends up defeating Lilith and breaking the seal, but then Sam finds out that Ruby is kind of playing him the whole time, and she's killed. And then Dean shows up, and Sam's like, I'm sorry, and it ends with them basically opening up the gates for Lucifer to come, a huge light flashing, and let's get going. Can't wait for the next season. So if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, comment below, let me know what's your favorite scene, and be sure to hit me at fictiontreviews12 at gmail.com to get added to the email list and to get sent newsletters, updates, and some free gifts. And I will see you all next time.